I'm on day 87 of retention right now, and just want to talk about the way I've been changing on this practice. I really love making these videos. Don't know if all of them are going to be retention videos, but I love connecting with you. I feel like a lot of you guys get me. But yeah, starting off, I think as you retain, you get addicted to the benefits in a certain way. You're ready for the glow. You've achieved discipline to an extent where you're no longer prioritizing the things you used to prioritize. But a lot of us don't understand why these changes are happening. You don't understand why you're experiencing maybe a change in appearance. Maybe you're acting differently, what you would consider to be more masculine. For the sake of this video, we'll just use that as terminology. You produce more prolactin every time you release. And prolactin in a man is actually very detrimental, having too much prolactin. And some people are releasing all the fucking time, and they don't know why they feel like shit. And there's a chemical, a biological, hormonal imbalance every time you release. And you don't understand the changes that are actually happening to you on a chemical level. You think, okay, I'm gonna go bust and it's going to feel good, and maybe I'll feel like shit for a couple of days, but then I'll be fine. But as you get older, your ability to bounce back is going to be more difficult. Your ability to bounce back from a relapse is going to be more difficult. And this is something to keep in mind as you retain, because sometimes you're going to face urges. Your mind is going to play tricks on you to the point where you think that a relapse or you restarting your streak is of benefit to you, when it's not. Unless you're making a baby, unless you're here to procreate, that is complete nonsense to just waste your life force and your seed. And prolactin affects a man in quite a bit of different ways. It's very interesting, actually, how you think you're just releasing for pleasure, and you think that, oh, maybe I'm down, losing energy for a while, but you're going to have a lower sex drive, lower bone density, decreased bone density, a decrease in facial hair growth and hair growth in general. And you're going to develop more body fat. So more face fat, more body fat around your person. And with more prolactin, you're going to get headaches. That's why after you release and you feel like shit for a couple days, you may not understand why, but your body is producing more prolactin every time you release. And some people are releasing every day, and then they wonder why they feel like shit. You have a decrease in testosterone every time you release. I see comments of people saying that having sex is actually increasing your testosterone. It's not. So every time you release, you're producing more of this chemical that is actually making you uglier, making you weaker, and making you less desirable in not only the sexual market, but available to produce valuable sperm. The more prolactin that you're producing every time you release, it decreases your sperm quality. So you're not as fertile. I think this is something that you guys really need to keep in mind. I need to be reminded of this because my urges have been pretty intense lately. Obviously, I'm still retaining, day 87. But we don't understand a lot of the changes that are happening until we go out of our way and really look at why retention is such a big deal for men. I know in the past I said retention shouldn't be glorified, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't be a big deal, but it is a big deal. And I'm also learning that. I'm learning that in this time, We need this. We need this to be a big deal more than ever. You see so many men who are developing, you know, due to the cause of releasing, they're developing mannerisms, behaviors, and physical changes within themselves that they don't understand. And then they complain about why they're not able to endure pain. You don't have as much testosterone in you. Why you can't focus. You're having headaches. You feel like shit because you're releasing and you're producing chemicals that don't belong in your body. As a man, you should not have that much prolactin in you. And you shouldn't be releasing all the time. You should have testosterone in you to where it's so abundant that you are waking up with a rock hard dick every day. And the reason that your face changes as you retain is because you are no longer producing prolactin as much. You are now producing way more testosterone. And with the decrease in prolactin, boosted testosterone, this is going to change how you look. And it doesn't only scream that you are full of vitality as you're retaining. That's what people want to call the glow. You're glowing, right? There's an energy difference to that. Obviously, your energy is going to be felt, but it is a difference in the actual chemicals, what's happening to you on the inside, hormones that are changing your body. It's going to change your bone density. I've noticed when I look back at my depleted self, when I look back at pictures of my depleted self, my facial structure was completely different. My face has literally changed. My body has changed due to retention. Not only am I able to retain muscle, keep the muscle that I built, but build more muscle way easier. Retention is going to clean out your system to the point where you can actually be a man. Your body on a biological level is going to flourish. But it's not a big deal in the sense of you're not becoming something out of the ordinary. In this society, you're becoming something out of the ordinary, but this is how you should be. And I was thinking about how, we're the only species that is deliberately losing our seed. But when you look at males of, like different animals, different species, and you look at the males of these animal groups, like when you look at a lion compared to a lioness, when you look at a gorilla, like a male gorilla, instead of, the female counterpart, or even a peacock, and you look at the male peacocks and then you look at the female peacocks, what I've noticed is that the males of these groups, these animals, they look so lively. They look incredibly beautiful. The what's it called? The deer. Fucking deer with its horns looks like royalty. And then you look at the female version of these animals and they look petite. They don't have the it's almost magical. I don't want to say they're not magical, but it's just such a different type of majesticness that is portrayed in their physical appearance, especially. And because they're not releasing all the time, they have the nutrients, they have the increased bone density, they have the testosterone, they have the actual chemicals flowing throughout their body that are going to produce this appearance of them being full of vitality, full of life. And I've noticed when you're retaining, as I've retained, my body has changed. My bones have changed. My muscles and their fullness have changed. My face has changed. And you can say that, this is your belief that semen retention is placebo, but on a chemical level, it's not. It's not placebo. You can say that the benefits, to a certain extent, they may be all in your head, but most of it is backed up by science. you can get into the spiritual aspects of this, and you can say that it's a case-by-case thing, and it may be. But the fact that the more you retain, you're going to become more beautiful, and you're going to be more in appearance, in alignment to what a real man should look like, how God decided you should really be. You're kind of going the opposite way as you release. And one of the factors that I mentioned at the beginning of the video is you're going to produce way more prolactin. So you're going to be fatter. You're going to have, not as much hair. You're going to have a lower sex drive and not as much testosterone in you. So this is something I've been thinking about, that it can't be placebo. And the excuses that people make for their depleted state is the most cope that I've ever seen. And you guys tell me, you should be harder on these people. But the truth is they're already hard on themselves. And we already went through why I deleted the videos. I love making these. So hopefully if you can pull some positivity out of this and maybe a good reminder as to why you should retain, hopefully this helps. But if you have a better understanding of the actual science behind why retention is benefiting you, then you're going to look at your benefits in a more clear way, in a more accurate way. You're going to look at the changes that are happening to you and actually understand why these are happening to you. You're going to look at your hair growth and your face change, and you're going to look at why women are attracted to you and not just blame it on, oh, this is just energy thing. This is just because my balls are full. That plays a part in it, but you have way more testosterone. You have way more confidence in yourself. Increased prolactin changes the way that you act because it is a hormonal thing. And increased testosterone changes the way that you act. So if your balls are full, you're going to act. You get into a room with a bunch of people who are depleted, you're going to act more manly. Just for use of the term, you're going to act more like a masculine person because you have the chemicals that are in alignment with what is masculine, what is truly masculine. And just as a mention, some of you have told me I should just make masculine content. Well, the most masculine thing you can do is retain and not give a fuck how you show up to other people. Who cares if you're being masculine or not? Retain. And then you won't have to decide what kind of behaviors or what kind of mannerisms or way of speaking that you need to accomplish in order to be perceived as masculine. All you have to do is retain, and you're going to be your fullest self. You're full of yourself already. So if you're struggling with retention, maybe it's a good idea to not take everything at face value, whether it's these videos, whether it's people in the comments, but actually do your research. Understand what's actually happening to your body while you're retaining. Because most of us, like I said, we get addicted to the so-called benefits that we may experience on this practice, but we don't know why it's happening. We see the women attraction, we see the change in energy levels, and then you think that you can sacrifice benefits, the whole experience of retention for a couple seconds of pleasure. But if you rewire your understanding of what's actually happening during these times of pleasure, you're going to look at this completely differently. It's going to literally change the way that you think about retention. It's going to change why you're doing retention, and you're going to have more fun on retention. And you're going to look at people and understand exactly why they are the way that they are. Not only because their balls are full or not, but you understand, like, this motherfucker is depleting himself every day. He doesn't have testosterone in him. He's producing all these other chemicals that don't belong in his body, and he's acting like a bitch. Do you want to act like that? Do you want to feel like that? You guys think, okay, well, maybe if I relapse, I always see comments like, well, once I get to 100 days, it should be good to restart my streak because, grinding 24/7 is a headache. Now, being, depleted is a fucking headache. It will literally give you headaches. And that's why you guys feel like shit after you deplete yourself, because your hormones are now fucked up. And then you want to run over here and look to the people who are retaining to provide a sense of motivation. There is a point in time where we have to be harder on ourselves. You know, we have to understand that if you really want to change things, if you want to change the dating world, if you want to change the dynamics between men and women, if you want to change your life, even on a personal level, just how you feel throughout your fucking day, fuck everyone else. How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel weak? Do you want to feel like you don't have what it takes to be a man? You have to understand that it's not just about the benefits or the women attraction or the glow, although these things are, it's beneficial to understand them. It's more about who do you want to be, you know? It's a form of identity. Are you the person that jerks off all the time? Or do you want to be the person that doesn't even think about that shit? Are you the person that is having meaningless sex and busting all the time? Or are you the person who understands what's actually happening and you're not willing to put yourself in this box where everyone else is playing around in and they're releasing their life force, but they don't really understand what's going to happen to them? And then you go out into the world and it seems like you're an alien, because you kind of are. I mean, it shouldn't be glorified. You shouldn't be bragging about like, I'm able to hold my balls in. It should be considered normal, but I don't think it is. There's not enough people retaining to where it is normal, right? So you go out, you see a bunch of fat fucks, low bone density, no testosterone having men, walking around with no sex, walking around with no balls, walking around with no bass in their voice, walking around like basically a female. And the chemicals that they're producing are more female-like. They're literally not producing the chemicals that it takes to be a man. And that's something that you have to understand as you retain and why these changes are happening to you. It's not just, oh, I woke up one day and then my face is glowing. It's on a chemical level, everything is changing. So when people are saying that I've been retaining and nothing is happening, you haven't been retaining. It's almost impossible for me to realize that you can retain and no changes will take place. That either means that you've been so depleted that it's just going to take longer for you to receive these so-called benefits, because your body has been in a state of survival. And the chemicals and the nutrients that are within your sperm are going to feed whatever is first priority. And that may not be fixing your face. That may not be retaining muscle. That just may be aligning your organs, aligning and rewiring your brain to the point where you can even perceive those benefits, you know, down the line. But that doesn't mean that nothing is changing. You have to wait things out. You have to understand that it's not the same for everybody. One person, he could retain for a week. Next thing you know, he's looking way better, feeling way better, retaining more muscle, getting the women attraction, spiritually aligned. And then for someone else, it may take 30 days. It has to do with how depleted you've been, and also how much prolactin, how much of these other chemicals, and how much of an imbalance on a hormonal level are you actually experiencing. It's going to take more time if you've been more depleted. If you've been one of those people who've been releasing every fucking day and you think that retaining for a week is going to change your whole life, you got to give yourself a chance. But the old videos aren't coming back. I love making these videos. Hopefully it helps somebody out. I think that as a community, we need to be more realistic about the changes that are coming. And what I mean by that is we can't expect, and this is me included, okay? We can't expect people to understand why this is important. We can give people the information, but we can't expect them to change. They have to want to change. And especially for the younger kids, I think that if you're an older guy, it's a lot easier for you to understand why retention is important, especially if you've been doing it. It's going to be harder for you to bounce back. You've experienced the depleted state for much longer, and you know that that's not what you want. But for a lot of the younger guys, they don't experience the depleted state in the way that someone else who's older and who's experienced retention and the depleted state, they don't experience it in the same way. So they release and, they bounce back after 2 days and they're like, dude, this is fun. I can go have my cake and eat it too. And I could kind of be on retention, retain some of my benefits. And then some of you say, well, I released, I feel fine. I promise you, it may not happen instantly. It may not be the second that you release that you're going to feel like shit, but wait a couple fucking days, your bones are going to start hurting. You're working out like a madman on retention, and then you release, you're able to recover faster with the boosted test that you have. Your hormones are in balance, and then you release. Now you're going to feel all the fucking pain that you felt, that you were supposed to feel. You're going to feel all the pain that you would have felt as a depleted person, putting in that much work into your muscles, into your bones. Now you basically just decrease your bone density. You're going to feel like shit. You're going to have headaches from the increase in chemicals that don't belong in your body. But these younger guys who are out here and they're relapsing and they think it's a game, they think it's a joke, they're not able to actually conduct a proper analysis of why this is even important, because they can kind of play around with it. But there's going to come a time where you can no longer play around. And there's going to come a time where you have to be serious about retention, or else you're really going to suffer. And some of you say, you experience bad luck after you relapse. It's not that you're experiencing bad luck necessarily, but you don't have the energy on a spiritual, mental level to maintain what you were maintaining as a retainer. Therefore, you're now in lack. It's dropping your energy levels completely. So not only on a physical level are you not going to be able to maintain the muscle, the bone density, your face is going to change. You're going to look differently. You're not going to feel as good about yourself. You're not going to be as confident with the decrease in test after a relapse. But on a spiritual level, you're not going to maintain the energy. On a mental level, you're not going to be thinking the same, tending to the same things that you were able to as you retain. Therefore, now you're experiencing unpreferable circumstances in your reality, but it's because you weren't able to actually see these things and dealing with them that you would normally deal with as a retainer, and then they just hit you in life. Because as a retainer, you're so focused on everything that needs to get done, you're so disciplined that you're not even looking at, you're not aware of the previous decrease in energy. You're now aware that you have so much energy to tend to all the things that you need to tend to in life. But as soon as you decrease your energy, it's like you have a blind spot. It's like you can't really see as far as you used to see while you were retaining. But for these younger guys, you have to understand, you may be in a position where you can get away with relapsing for now. You may be in a position where you can release once a week, maybe even more, and you're not going to experience, maybe you have good genetics. I was one of those people who, when I was releasing, when I was a teenager, I didn't experience the headaches. I didn't experience the drop in energy levels that I would experience now. If I release now, I'm fucked. I release now and I wake up the next day, I feel like shit. I have headaches. I don't have the same energy levels. I'm not going to be as disciplined. I have a blind spot to what I should be tending to. And then life comes at you and you're not able to handle it in the way that you would normally handle it as a retainer. So hopefully you can understand that retention is as important as breathing, basically. And that may sound extreme to some people, but if you want to live a life that is more balanced, if you want to actually accomplish things, go after your goals in a meaningful way, life becomes more beautiful on retention, and you become more beautiful. It's like the universe is blessing you with the natural state of who you really are. You get to see what you really look like. You get to see how you really act. You have the proper chemicals, the proper hormones in your body that are going to force you to be the man that you truly are. Why wouldn't you want to experience that? And why would you sacrifice that state of being for a depleted state? That's something you have to ask yourself.